Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Vince. In a few moments, I'm going to be introducing Chris McInroy. But before I do, I just wanted to thank everyone who's subscribed this week, and to the YouTube channel and to the Facebook page, which is getting some more likes as well. I'm getting quite a few new subscriptions. That's great. Thank you so much. Right, but then without further ado, let me introduce Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you very much. As I was saying before, just hot, just really hot.
Yeah, well, it's the same here in Austin. It's always hot.
Yeah, but you guys have air conditioning. We have 12-inch fans, which we seriously we were thinking about buying an air conditioning unit, and then I looked at the price and I thought, by the time we have that money, it'll be winter. So yeah. But I've noticed a few, because our houses are obviously not designed for air conditioning, so you see the plastic tubes pointing out of people's windows, the big wide plastic tubes. So they've obviously got air conditioning in. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of talking about the weather. So what is it, kind of kick things off by talking about your short films. And incidentally, folks, usual spoiler alert, we may give away plot points for any of the films that we discussed during this program. So was it your first short film, Bad Guy Number 2?
This is the first one that I claim. I'd made some other ones in film school. I think while I was trying to find my voice and trying to experiment and figure things out. But yeah, Bad Guy Number 2, I was 7 years after I graduated film school. So I took a long break trying to figure things out. But yeah, I claim it as my first one, Bad Guy Number 2.
What was the inspiration? I mean, it's a long time. How long ago is it? When did you make it?
Yeah, it was 2014, so 4 years ago.
Yeah. So not that long ago. So what was your inspiration for it?
You know, I was just sort of looking at my DVD collection and trying to get ideas. And I had a bunch of Jackie Chan movies, strangely enough. And so I started thinking about how he always is just fighting all sorts of bad guys and a gang of bad guys. And there's always these guys who get killed. And then you never know who they are. So then you see in the credits, they're credited as Bad Guy Number 2, Bad Guy Number 3, Bad Guy Number 4, or whatever. And then the next day I watched the MacGruber movie, not MacGyver, MacGruber, and Tim Burton's Batman. And both of those, Joker and the Kingpin in the other movie, killed their main henchman and then immediately promoted the next guy. And I'm like, man, does he really want that job? Because he just saw his buddy get killed by his boss, and now he's going to have all the pressure. If he messes up, he's going to get killed. So I think just a wraparound of me looking at DVDs and then watching a couple movies, inspiration. And then I love practical effects and gory, over-the-top, effects. And so if I kind of just combine all that stuff together that I like. And that's where it came from. Right.
And speaking of the effects, amazing effects in all your movies. Have you worked with the same people on the 3 short films?
Bad Guy Number 2, we used a couple that the company's called Bloody Field Special Effects. And then in Death Metal and We Summon a Demon, we used a guy named Eric Zapata, who is one of the best guys here in Austin, maybe, in the world. He's very good. He's been on the show Face Off, which is on the Sci-Fi Channel. He was on 2 seasons of that. And then we also used him in this new one. We did a segment for an anthology called Scare Package, and mine's called One Time in the Woods. And Eric was on that, as well as a guy named Tate, who was also on the show Face Off on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Cool. What you say you love? Have you ever dabbled in them yourself?
In practical effects?
In practical effects, making practical effects.
I've never dabbled in it besides just sitting there in the studio while they work on stuff and wish I knew how to do things. But I don't know how to do any of that stuff.
It has to be said that I immediately just feel sorry for your actors because they seem to end up by eating an awful lot of blood, just ridiculous amounts of blood.
Yeah, people make jokes that my whole movies are just trying to get Kirk worse, and he's the main actor in all 3 of them. Worse and worse, just bloodier and bloodier. And you should see this new one. He's the star of it as well. And we pretty much had him buried for, I don't know, 4 hours straight up to his neck.
How did you meet Kirk?
Funny enough, I was in grad school as a TA, and he was a student of mine. Him and Will Elliott, they're both in my movies, and I was like, these guys are very funny. I'm going to latch on to them. So, you know, I like to work with friends, and they've been my friends for a long time. So, yeah, that's how I met him.
And does Kirk act regularly, or is that?
Yeah, him and Will live in Los Angeles, and they also direct ads, like commercials, but also act, you know, in different things.
Right. And we spoke a little bit earlier on about the inspiration. How do you work? Do you write in longhand first, or do you sit at a computer with an app, or?
I usually sit at my laptop with Microsoft Word and just write out a treatment, kind of like beat by beat of what I want to happen or what I think I'm going to write. And then when I start writing it, whether it's a little different or if it follows the same pattern, but usually I write some sort of a treatment, not even like an outline, just this happens and this happens and this guy says this and this person says this. And then from there I write the script. Back number 2, it was longer than my other 2, so it took a little bit longer to write. But death metal, I think I wrote in like 30 minutes.
It's very interesting. I was going to say, what is the comparative running times of the movies?
Bad Guy is 10 minutes, and then death metal is around 4.5, and then We Summon a Demon is 6.
Right. Which do you feel most comfortable with?
Comfortable with, like, showing my family or what?
No, I meant in terms of the. It's really interesting. You're saying it, you know, it's a longer. Do you, when you're writing the very short, the shorter versions, because they're almost like only half. The latter 2 are almost half the length of the first one.
Right.
Was that just because the way the idea came out, or do you miss the longer form for playing around with, or?
Well, you know, I think it was after Bad Guy number 2 and traveling around to film festivals, just watching short blocks, my preference started to become like shorts should be short. And, well, they don't have to be, but I just like those better. You know, like just quick to the point and leave them wanting more, hopefully. So, and then also cheaper, I can spend more of the budget on the effects if I have less shooting days. So.
That's interesting. How long did they take to shoot? What was the how many days did you shoot on Bad Guy number 2?
Bad Guy number 2 was 3 days, and the other ones were 2 days. So I cut a day out.
That's still pretty. You must have prepared. Presumably, do you work with an assistant director?
Yeah, we work with an assistant director to help schedule it for sure, and keep everything on schedule. And yeah, like you said, it's a lot of prep work to get that many shots and that much done in a day. I think, you know, we average about 26, 27 shots a day, which I don't really know how much Hollywood movies get, but I feel like we're pretty fast.
You said what, 26, 27?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's around about Roger Corman, who I believe he always aims for 25. And yeah, I think I think if you're working with small casts, simple, and you're going to be mostly working on location, then I guess it's going to be traveling. Yeah, but it's still pretty impressive. You know, if you manage to create a short film in 3 days. I mean, mind you, he says he created 2 short films in 3 days last year. I really don't want to have to do that again if I can avoid it. Because it's tough. I mean, presumably they're really long days.
Yeah, you know, 10 or 12 hours for sure.
Yeah.
But another thing I like try to think of when I'm thinking of ideas, if I can try to keep it in minimal locations, hopefully even just one location. Death metal, we had the park, and then we had the garage. And then Demon, we've got just the warehouse. which is helpful. In that warehouse, you just put things in your brain that you hear, earlier on in your life, where a guy told me, hey, if you ever need a warehouse to shoot something in, I've got one. So then I put that away, and then a couple years later, I'm like, I could shoot a movie in a warehouse. Try to think of something that can take place, just all the resources that I can pool together as cheap as possible.
Right. This is kind of what I think of as my Hitchcock question. Which do you prefer, which do you enjoy most? The writing or the actual filming itself?
Probably the filming. I think there's something about being on set. Everybody becomes a family, and I've used a lot of the same crew and cast in these 3 movies, so we already kind of feel like family. It's like getting the band back together, almost like we were gone for summer and now we're back in class. And another thing I love is just being able to see the writing come to life. That's another reason why I like to use practical effects, is because you can see it right away happen. You don't have to shoot it on green or shoot and have visual effects happen later on. Like, everybody can gather around, they're excited about seeing a head explode.
Right. Yeah, and we should tell. Yeah, I did. Where can people see the films of the film? I know I got my lovely Blu-ray, which worked perfectly, by the way. But the first 2 films. So it's 2016. You made Death Metal.
So Bag number 2 is online in different places. You can see it on my Vimeo channel for sure, and it's on Crypt TV and some other places. But Death Metal is also online in different areas, but it's also on my Vimeo channel.
Right.
And eventually that Blu-ray that you have that has all 3 of them, we'll probably put that up for sale at some point.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. What do you said you like working on set. What do you find the most challenging part of working on set?
The most challenging, I think, is just making sure that we can get everything without compromising, which always happens. You got to kind of figure out what shots you can cut or what corners you can cut if you're running behind schedule, because I really want to make my day as much as possible. And then working with effects, you never know, things can go wrong and can take longer than expected, and then you're gonna have to take time from somewhere else. So that's the most challenging, I think, or maybe frustrating, is just making sure that I can get everything. And if I can't, I always have to have a backup plan in my head of, okay, I could probably cut this shot if I need to, or I could maybe combine these shots if I need to. Yeah, and then waiting, it takes time to set up shots, and it always gets kind of not stressful. I feel anxious. I'm like, I want to get it. I want to get the shot. I don't want to push anybody, but we're all a pretty well-oiled machine. We work pretty fast, but there's always a little anxiety that I have, just being a weird guy that I am.
No, I know, I recognize that. And you worked with the kids in the first 2 movies.
Kids?
Yeah, children. You work with children, and the girl hanging from the bars.
Yeah, that's my daughter.
It is your daughter.
Yeah.
What does she think about this whole process?
I've never shown her the full movies. I've shown her part on a loop, just her hands getting chopped off and her screaming. So let me just put that out there right now. But she loved it because she had helped with the Kickstarters a lot too. I don't know if you ever watched any of those. We did the Kickstarter videos, and she was always a part of them. So she kind of knows the process. And we, together we would write scripts on the weekend and film it just for fun. She would hold the camera on me, I would hold the camera on her. So she knew a little bit about the process. But then she got on set, and there's all these people and equipment and wardrobe. We got to get her in the right clothes, and then we were in the middle of nowhere, and that's, shooting that. So there's not a reset once you get blood all over you, really, because, she's going to get bloody all over her face, all over her hair. The wardrobe we could change, but the reset of the hair and the face, that's going to be impossible. So we, put put a lot of pressure on her to get it right on one take. Oh man, so she was super nervous about that, but we practiced a lot without the blood spray. Okay, on the count of 3, you're gonna lift the arms up, and then we're gonna shoot blood, and you gotta scream. So a lot of practice, and she nailed it. She stayed in the character while the blood was going in her mouth, and she's like screaming, ah, and then spit the blood out, and then came back, ah. It was really funny.
Does she have any ambitions in film direction?
She changes all the time. Like she's called me before from school, like, hey, we're writing a short script at school. Will you help me out? And then now she wants to be a flight attendant. So who knows?
Yeah,
I think she'd be a great actress.
Yeah, she's I'd forgotten about the Kickstarter videos as well. She does very well on those. Yeah. We were talking earlier on just before we came on air about you're currently putting a temp track to your rough cut for the scare package. Mm-hmm. What's your process? Do you work with a composer or?
So usually once I have a rough cut, which is almost like an assembly cut where it's just everything lined up, before I like to show people, I usually want to put some temp tracks in there from other movies that I just borrow, that will kind of give the good pace or the right tone or vibe of the scenes. So yeah, this morning I've been kind of going through different movie scores and picking pieces that I feel like could go in there. And usually I kind of have a style that I just go for, that everything's in the same style, whether it's all piano, whether it's all synth, whether it's all whatever, strings. This one I'm kind of not really sure exactly which direction I want to go. So I have some synth, I have some stuff from The Witch in there, which is just like chanting. And I have some stuff from Mad Max Fury Road, which is really intense. And I just try to kind of figure out what the right vibe is that I want to go for. And usually I work with a composer, and I work with the same composer named Bird Peterson on the last 3 shorts. This one, Scare Package, since it's an anthology, a feature-length movie, they want to use the same composer. So it's the same composer through all the shorts and all the wraparound. And that process will be new to me, and I'm going to see what's going on with that. And that's going to be awesome. I'm sure the guy's very good. So,
yes, it's interesting. I go through a similar thing. Patrick, who I work with, he always insists. He's quite happy for me to do that in terms of the pacing and so on, as long as I never actually show it to him with the score. He just wants to see it with the little numbers spinning around at the bottom, and I completely understand. I completely, yeah. It's cool. So tell us a little bit more about Scare Package, if you could. Who's behind this, and what is it?
So people behind it are local in Austin, Paper Street Pictures, and also the guy that produced With Some of the Demons, his name is Chris Phipps. He has a company called Garth Manor Cinema, and he's joined up with them as well. And a friend of mine who's also a producer, Matt Thomas. So it's Paper Street Pictures, Matt Thomas, and Chris Phipps. And there's basically like 8 directors that they've reached out to write and direct a segment. The idea is they're all horror comedies, and you take a trope of horror films and you have fun with it. So everybody can pick whatever they want. I picked The Woods, so I could just have as many things happen that happen in horror films in the woods as I could think of in a short amount of time. It's called One Time in the Woods. We filmed for 3 days this time, all in the woods and during the day, and it was probably like 94 degrees. But we got through it and got everything we needed, and it's going to turn out really great, I hope. So far, so good. And then I think they've shot about 5 of the segments, with a few more lined up in August and beyond. And they're going to shoot the wraparound story as well. So I'm assuming it's going to be ready in 2019 at some point.
And I think it's 8 short stories.
Oh, yeah. 8 short. I think it's 8, yeah. I get confused.
When I was looking at it the other day, that's the number I had in mind. you mentioned that most of these filmmakers are based in Austin. Is there a big filmmaking community in Austin?
Yeah, there's definitely a good community in Austin. They, they even shoot TV shows here. Fear the Walking Dead has been shooting here, the AMC show. There's it's interesting. We'll work on commercials or short films, and you'll see a lot of the same people. So a lot of people here, we all know each other. It's easy to, if somebody's booked, say like a sound mixer's booked, he has somebody he can recommend. You're like, oh, well, I've worked with that person as well. So it's great. Everybody kind of knows each other here. But there's always new people moving in, so there's always fun to meet new people as well. It's not just always the same crew. But yeah, it's a pretty good community here. And then they pick directors from all over the country. It's just the producers are all in Austin.
Right. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Now, we haven't really said that much about We Summoned a Demon apart from so what you mentioned the first film is online on your Vimeo channel. Then what the death metal? Where's death metal at the moment?
Death metal is online as well. It finished playing festivals, and we launched it last Halloween.
Right. Okay, so they're both online. What's happening with We Summoned a Demon, which I saw at Texas Frightmare a couple of weeks last month?
Mm-hmm. And I saw your short film there as well, and it was great, by the way. I don't know if I got to tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was the room was packed, so it was a little hard to see, but I was able to stand up a bit and could see your short film and hear it very well.
I know. Well, I have to say, because I think yours played immediately before mine.
I don't remember the order, but yeah.
All I remember is that just before mine started, there was a whole a row of people at the front suddenly decided to stand up and started walking towards the back, and I thought, I can't actually see this.
Yeah, it was
because I was dashing backwards and forwards from my table because I didn't know. I only discovered I knew it was in the block, but I didn't know where in the block. And it took me a while to establish where in the block. So I was running back to the table and thinking, I think it's probably coming up fairly soon. But there is nothing like watching your film with an audience.
I think that's a really big reason of why I like to make short films and go to festivals, is just because it's so much fun to hear the reactions of people and get to talk to people afterwards about it and talk about inspirations and talk about future projects and things. It's really good to meet people that way. But Demon is still playing festivals right now. So it started last October. The track record usually it plays about a year and a half or so before I launch it online. My plan right now, at least, is just to put Demon online maybe like in December after it plays I think the last festival we have scheduled is the end of November right now.
Right.
So, but we'll see what happens. I like to put stuff online for free because it gets good exposure,
Yeah. I think it's just different for different people. I charge for my stuff, just because it's like, okay, well, it's part of rewards, it's part of the Kickstarter, etc. And the amount of charge is nominal because I always add in extras and so on. So rather than just putting because I know people really enjoy the extras. So it's kind of like training for a feature film release, as far as I'm concerned. It's getting my head thinking all those different things that you want to put into your package, because I know people really enjoy the behind the scenes stuff as well.
Yeah,
it's cool. But yeah, and I came across your work just simply because I stumbled across Bad Guy number 2. What does it mean? Yeah, I just stumbled across Bad Guy number 2.
Did you see it at Fest maybe?
I might have done. Did it play at Fright Fest, did you say?
It did in 2014, I believe.
Yes. 2014, 4 years ago. Actually, maybe not. Because 15, 16, 17. this were 18. No, because I don't think that's not one that I attended. I literally came across it later on.
Okay.
And so,
well,
cool. But you've already won awards for We Summon a Demon, is that right?
Yeah, we've won some awards, yeah, which has been awesome. I always appreciate that when people recognize anything that I do.
Cool, excellent. All right, well, keep an eye out for it, folks. We Summon a Demon is a fun movie. It's very silly. I do like it. I really, really like it. Yeah, I'm not going to say that one of my favorite lines, but it has something to do with a lead actor in a film called Saturday Night Fever.
That's one of my favorite jokes as well in the movie. And the funny part about that, I don't know if we can talk too much about it, but that was improv.
Really?
Yeah. Because, well, I can't really explain why, because it'll definitely spoil it. But yeah, there was a part that we were supposed to shoot that we didn't have time for, and so then it ended up being like with me and Carlos just talking, and the funny part of this scene now has to be the chant, so we need to come up with something that's going to be funny in the chant. And I think it was the last take, and he just brought that out. I'm like, oh man, that was hilarious.
It's great. It's just so exciting. What? Oh, right. I mean, it's very clever. It works really, really well. I love things like that.
That's what's good about Kirk and Carlos is they work on the stage a lot and improv. So I knew that those two would be good together.
Yeah. There's a definite chemistry between the two of them. It's just, yeah. It's that's right. I keep on thinking about bursting into giggles. It's really just make an effort to see it, folks. Is my recommendation. All of them. I have to say, one of the in death metal, one of my favorite deaths of all time is where the head goes through the body.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite too, because it's just so weird. Why would that happen? And then, it cuts to it later on, and he's still just standing there.
It's just very, very silly. That's really good. Yeah. You can tell by my giggles how much I enjoy these films, because every time I think of them, I start giggling. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on now and talk about your hidden horrors. And thank you so much for. Well, I have to say, you had a before Freaked, which we will speak about a little bit later on. You'd originally suggested student bodies, which I was. And anyway, so if anyone missed the fact that we've now changed that, and you're expecting to hear us talk about student bodies, I have to say a couple of things. Firstly, it's the first time I've ever seen Alan Smithy credited as the producer.
Yeah.
Rather than
too. I think they all should. After watching it again, I feel like they all should be credited as Alan Smithy.
For those who don't know, who are not in basically Alan Smithy is the name a director, and I think they've stopped using it now. Will have put on a film when they want to. Basically, where the producers have taken a film away from a director. And the director is no longer happy with the product because it's not the film that he wanted. So they will credit. I think one of the Hellraisers is credited to Alan Smithy.
As a director?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 4 or 5. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm confident that at least one of them is. But as I said, first time I've ever seen that. But also the opening sequence of Student Bodies, I thought, this is Scream. This is Scream 15 years before Scream was made.
That's what's interesting about it is the time frame or the time period that it made it. And it seems like it was pretty, new and fresh and before its time almost. I mean, there's definitely stuff in it that's dated, really dated. But I feel like, as a comedy horror film, it was having fun with all the style of films and being very meta,
Yeah, well, I particularly like one of the openings. One of the opening shots is it just flashes up. This film is based on a true story. Last year, 26 horror films were made. None of them lost money.
Yeah, and then from there it goes right into a shot of a house, and it says Friday the 13th, and then it says, fades out and comes back, it says Halloween. It fades out, comes back, says Jamie Lee Curtis's birthday. So it's, right away you kind of get the idea of what kind of movie this is going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you chose Freeze, because I think that's possibly some of the best. There are some good gags in it, but it's very dated, and it's there are lots of misses in that movie as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, hey.
Yeah, I think what happened was I was just trying to think of something that is hidden that people wouldn't really know about. That's the trick. Like, I'm trying to think of something good that's also maybe not as well known. Yeah. And that one I owned in my DVD collection, but I hadn't watched it in years, so I probably should watch things before I recommend them from now on.
Well, that is part of the process, and it is a kind of to find a hidden horror that's good. Anything that's good, you'd hope will be will be well known, but of course there is just so much material out there. I'm trying to find. So anyway, I hadn't seen any of your choices, so let's start with The Gate, which is 1987. And Michael Whelan says it's Hellraiser 4 Bloodline that is credited to
nice.
Alan Smithy. The Gate, when did you first see The Gate?
The Gate is it's hard to pinpoint exactly when I saw it, but yeah, 87, so I imagine the VHS was 88 or 89 probably. And I grew up in a very small town where they had VHS rentals at the local gas station. And they would cycle out every week. I think they would come from a town 30 miles away that they would borrow from, and they would cycle them out. And I was always very interested in the horror films, mostly because of the cover art. Like, oh man, this stuff looks cool. I remember Evil Dead 2 with the skull, and The Gate had a hand coming out of the ground, which was interesting to me. So I believe it was just from renting it on VHS and watching it as a kid. I don't think I watched it too young because it's pretty scary. But it was also around the times when there were a lot of movies with kids kind of saving the day. Yep. There was like The Gate, there was Goonies, Monster Squad, maybe even like Lost Boys. So I could relate to it being a kid while I was watching it.
Yeah, this is interesting because I'd not come across it at all. I was watching it and I'm thinking, hold on, is this aimed at children or is it aimed at adults? Now, hold on. The lead actors are all, in fact, the lead actor is a kid, but actually really quite scary.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, no, you go ahead. You're the guest.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say some of the scenes that are like terrifying, or even for a kid, would be Terry. His mom died recently, and then the demons are acting as if it's his mom, and like, I love you and I miss you, and they're hugging, and it's like, oh, that's such a sweet moment, but you know that she's dead, so hopefully it's just a dream. But no, they're messing with him, and it's a dead dog that he's hugging. It's so messed up. And then they do that again with the parents later on with I don't even remember what the main kid's name is, Dorf's character name, but he comes out the door and sees his parents, and they're on a trip, and they think, finally the parents are going to come save you, like what you think of as your parents. They're going to save you when you're a kid. But no, the head melts and the head falls off on him. Like that type of stuff, watching as a kid or even now, just putting yourself in those shoes is pretty terrifying.
Well, yeah, and the character's name is Glenn, and it's played by Stephen Dorff, a very young Stephen Dorff. I don't think it's even his first movie, though, because I think Dorff has been acting since he's like 3 or 4 or something like that. But yeah, and it's like, but what I have to say, what I found absolutely, in fact, we were talking about the magic of practical effects. Mm. It's the animation. The stop animation, the Ray Harryhausen style stuff in it is extraordinary.
It's really good. Even the trickery where they had the guys in the suits and they shot with forced perspective, and there was actually people in those little demon suits. But the one that always stands out to me is when the zombie type character came out of the walls earlier. It's in the bedroom. He's standing there, he falls, and then at the moment when he falls on the ground, and all those little demons come out of the ground and run around, and then it's just one of those amazing shots that I always remember.
Yeah. The one of the things I remember, it was looking at it and thinking, hold on, okay, that's definitely stop motion, but those are guys in suits. They must have built a huge, great foot and leg, but it's it's cut so beautifully. You know, you really don't. It's only because you can see how it's the way they move. You know, they look. You know, they obviously got small people to play the parts. But the moments that they really are scary. And then I was thinking, okay, actually, you know, Doctor Who is probably just as scary. There's scary moments for them. Do you have a particularly of all? You know, we talked about the three leads. Do you have a particular favorite character in the movie?
I love Terry. Yeah, just. He's the kid who's way into metal. I'm into metal. You just kind of feel for him because his mom died. His dad's never around. He's just kind of home by himself, but he likes to come over to his friend's house, Glenn's house, and just hang out as much as he can. In death metal, we put a fake production company name on the bottom of the title card when it pops up, and it was called Terry Nadas, and Terry was named after Terry and the Gate. And then Nadas is Satan backwards, which is, it's so tricky.
I like that. And one of the things that's really cleverly done is you actually never get to see his father, from what I remember. Yeah. It's when you get to see him at home, he gets home and there's a note from his father on the fridge. So you just have the guy in the you just have him in his bedroom, and then you see all the death metal stuff and the guitar and the posters.
Yeah, that's a great scene where he's discovering the chants and looking at his album Sacrifix that has all the chants in there and figuring it out, and he's got the bed sheet wrapped around him. That's a great scene. You know, and Gate 2, his dad's in it because he's the returning character in the Gate Part 2, Terry.
Right.
His dad is a pilot, I think, if I remember correctly. So maybe that's why he was always gone.
Right. Or although I noticed actually it's actually quite a small cast. There's quite a few, and I am actually see full cast. Not that many. In fact, yeah, full cast for a feature film. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 credited cast. Wow. So it really is quite a small small cast, cast for a feature film.
There's probably some party goer number 1, party goer number 2, party goer number 3.
Yeah, they're not crediting any of those guys. Yeah, it's speaking roles only. And it kind of has a feel of an independent. I don't know who the producer. Actually, I think the production company was. But he says checking very art. So big art department. Yeah, the art department is actually the same size as the cast. It's and you got second units. You got camera and electrical department. Yeah, it really is a masses of. Yes, and of course, because it's practical effects. So you got the zombies going to be a practical effects. Obviously, you got a dog wrangler, and and Lisa Smith is credited as Angus Doll.
Angus Doll.
Angus Doll is her credit in
Angus is the dog's name. I know that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that I hadn't even spotted it. So they obviously used a real. Oh yeah, no. It's funny. It's the sequence we're just talking about. It's yes, no. There isn't. Yes, there's yes. Dead dog. You don't. and euthanize a dog just so you can have a dead dog on your set. Yes, obviously there's an Angus dog. Yeah, sorry, I did warn about spoilers, folks. But yeah, it's cool. It's a fun movie. Definitely a fun movie.
I think it holds up too, because I can watch it nowadays. I don't know, maybe sometimes that happens where it's just nostalgic and you like it, but other people watch it, hadn't seen it before, and are like, I don't know if this is as good as what you're thinking it is. But you hadn't seen it before, and you seem to enjoy it. So. Oh
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just, if you get onto IMDb, you can just keep on scrolling for all the credits, because of course, huge, great sound department, special effects. Naturally, as I say, we mentioned the stuff and the stop motion stuff and the visual effects on top of that. So yeah, it's a big production, but most of the money went, a lot of the money went on all the production. I just liked it for its charm. I like the dynamics between the kids, the big sister. There's Glenn, who's the small, he's the boy. His hormonal teenage sister is really interested in having parties rather than looking after him. He wants to phone mum and dad. She's determined he's not going to. Basically, the idea is that the parents are away for the weekend, and all kinds of crazy shit goes down. And it's just, yeah. But also the twin sisters who are in the daughter's best, the big sister's friends, and so on. It's just fun. It's a really, really good fun movie.
Yeah, and I like where it takes place too, sort of out in the suburbs, where everything seems safe.
But yeah, which is very much like Poltergeist, E.T.
True.
Yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. That's part of the thing, because that's going to be your audience, and that's where everything is supposed to, because this is just happening in an ordinary house. And I also like the way it cuts straight to the plot, the point, that it starts with. It's kind of strange, really, because it starts with a nightmare sequence, and then I have to say, the performance by Stephen Dorff, because you start with the boy coming, literally riding down that beautifully normal suburban street, and he just comes in to his home and starts calling for his parents. Obviously, you've got the music as well telling you that there is something creepy going on, but just his he is really scared about something, and something is wrong in this house. So as you track through the house, you've just got this constant tension building up, and this is literally within the first minute of the movie.
Yeah.
It's really, really nicely done.
And the dream is part of what actually happens in real life too, with the treehouse and the lightning. Yeah,
and which is a great way of actually conveying an awful lot of information, rather than having to show a flashback to the tree, what was buried underneath the tree, etc. Yeah. I have a big thing about, I don't like narrations at the beginnings of movies or long scroll. Okay, apart from Star Wars, I get that. But before anyone shouts at me. But rule of thumb, if your horror movie starts with a narration to set up, it's probably not going to be the best horror movie in thousands of years ago. It's like, okay, let's find constantly say there must be better ways. And this is a great example of how to really set something up and actually retain, something's wrong, there's something wrong with that tree. And probably the last thing you want to do, which is what you discover when he wakes up, is cut the tree down and pull it out of the ground. You probably don't want to do that. And I guess it's a great opening to a film.
I was watching it again last night just so I would be fresh with it, and there's a funny part, I think, is when it does cut to the outside window, when he wakes up and looks out, there's like 15 guys out there helping cut up a tree. For some reason, I would picture maybe like one or two, but they've got like a massive crew out there just to help get this tree out.
Yeah.
I don't know why, that just strikes me as funny.
Yeah, it is kind of. They've even got a bulldozer.
Yeah, they're ready to get that tree out of there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big tree. It's obviously an established tree. But normally, what you do is you cut the tree down, or you cut off the top bits. You cut it down so it doesn't destroy the fence on your neighbour's property when you cut the tree down. Then you put But no, they're going to pull it out of the ground, more or less whole. Normally, you just put root killer, stump killer in it, or blow it up. It's the other favourite way of getting rid of tree stumps. But yeah, it's cool. All right, so that's that. Now, the other film you chose it's another one. I'm just giggling because every time I think of it, I'm going, what did I just watch?
Oh, man, it is a funny movie.
It's weird. It is. When did you first see Freak? When did you first come across Freak?
This one I remember seeing for the first time. My parents were out of town. I guess it would have been, that movie was 93, so maybe 94 VHS, another VHS. My parents were out of town, but they had a guy that worked with them just hanging out at my house to make sure I didn't have a party. But he brought over Freaked on VHS. And I had a group of friends, none of us had heard of it, and he was like telling us how awesome it is. And a weird piece of trivia right here is he also had a Hellraiser model I just was talking about that he brought over to show us. It was probably about from here to my chest.
This is Pinhead. Yes.
Yeah. Which is a weird coincidence that we're talking about this with your connection, obviously, to Hellraisers. But yeah, so he put it in, and we all watched it, and it was around the same time. I know for sure that the creators of Freaked were part of this MTV show called The Idiot Box. That had a lot of similar, like even the credits of Freaked are similar with that claymation style and almost like strobe induced, strobe lighting and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of cool effects in Freaked, and the creature designs are amazing, and there's claymation parts as well, and it's for me it's very funny, but there's also, I consider it a horror comedy just because of they're being held against their will, they're being turned into freaks they don't want to be. There's the bad guy, there's the bad corporation. Because I was a little bit worried about picking it as a hidden horror, because would it be more of a hidden comedy? But I feel like it counts as what we're talking about.
Oh God, yeah, and it's a great movie as far as I'm concerned. So I'm more than happy with the choice.
Very good.
Well, no, it is a horror. I mean, there's enough gore, and it's monsters. It's not just freaks. They are, they're proper monsters. I think possibly. Do you have a favorite monster?
I mean, I gotta like Beast Boy the most, but I think my favorite character might actually be Stewie, the little kid that's always trying to get him to sign autographs. Because anytime that he shows up, it's a funny scene, whether it be in the airplane or when he falls out of the plane and there's a shot of a hay bale and you can hear him falling and you're like, oh, he's going to land in the hay bale and be safe, but he lands right on the ground next to it. And then there's the scenes of him, getting thrown through the glass doors, which is funny. And then at the end, if we can spoil it, when he becomes just as big as Beast Boy and they have their battle royale, it's just like, those are some of the coolest creatures that I've ever seen. Those tall, when they're the tallest. Yeah. Because they still have the mechanics to move the ears and the lips and the eyebrows and the lip. It's just pretty amazing to me.
Yeah. Now I was trying to find the Ortiz, and it was
Keanu
Reeves playing Ortiz the dog boy.
Yeah. Because
when I was watching, I thought, that sounds and those eyes look awfully like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And then I checked the credit, and it is here on IMDb, the fact that he played it uncredited.
I think it was mostly because of his relationship with the director and the guy who played Beast Boy from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure,
Yeah. So if you've not seen this movie, folks, it is bizarre, and it stars and is co-written by Alex Winter, who, by doing my usual IMDb research and so on, discovered was in Death Wish 3, as was Barbie Wilde, who played female Cenobite in Hellraiser 2 Hellbound.
Oh, more connections.
More connections. I was talking earlier on about monsters, and I was thinking it's the two eyes that I
Oh yeah,
just
Rastafari.
yeah. It's just like these, but I mean, the production quality. I mean, you got Randy Quaid playing the baddie, and Brooke Shields is in it, along with along with a reference to Return to the Blue Lagoon.
There's a reference to Ishtar in there as well.
Yes, yes.
I think at the time it was considered a pretty big bomb of a movie, Ishtar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember it was huge. I remember it opening and all the big publicity for Ishtar, and then it just like disappearing within like 3 or 4 days. Didn't even last the week. You know, it's just like, whoa, that really did go very, very quickly. You know, this is in the days before the internet, etc., when you literally discovered what was going on in cinemas actually outside the cinema on the listings in the local paper. It's a strange thing. You talked about your favorite character. Is it a favorite moment in the movie?
You know what's interesting is when they are strapped in for the first time, and Randy Quaid is going to turn them into freaks, and he has that big machine in his barn. And I think what's super cool is if you can make a scene that's maybe just a standard regular old scene, make it more interesting and dynamic, because that machine is moving, and then the montage of it moving, and there's like metal music playing, and it's very frenetic, and I enjoy it. And then it cuts to the molding of the guy and the girl, and it turns into a claymation. It's just like all clay, and then like Gumby comes out, and one of the Clash of the Titans guys comes out, or maybe it's not Clash of the Titans, but anyways, like a Cyclops guy comes out, and that scene to me is I don't know, I really like it just because it's so interesting of a way to shoot that. Because he could have just been like, oh, pull a lever, here's some goo, put it on this guy, cut away, cut back, there they are. But just having all that interesting stuff makes it for a really good scene for me. Do you remember that?
I remember the bit, and I appreciate what you're saying, because you literally do have the needle going around the dial, and so there is something bit this huge great machine that's supposed to be just delivering whatever the name is, Zyklon X or whatever it is.
42.
Yes.
42.
But also, it's all the lovely touches in it. It's like you mentioned the big bad corporation, and the fact that the rest of the board members, the chairman of the board has a lever beside his chair which he can pull up, and then just extras casting, guys in the middle-aged guys dressed in suits, they just raise their arm because it's very obviously on a string, and it goes down.
All those in favor, and he just makes them all right to the end. I also love the name of that corporation, EES, which stands for Everything Except Shoes.
It's brilliant, and it's worth reading the Wikipedia entry as to how it got made and all the different versions it went through, and so on. I'm really surprised I'd not heard of it before as a cult movie, because to me it's great midnight screener. It's something I'm amazed. I don't know how Alex Winter does a lot of conventions. It'd be really interesting to see if he's got any photographs from it on his table. It's great. So again, another one. If you haven't seen this one, I really do heartily recommend it for something that is so batshit crazy. It reminds me a lot of the style of Monty Python. You have a plot, and there's definitely a through story, and so on, but you just have these things. And I have to say, one of my favorite moments in the movie is Mr. T as a woman giving makeup advice.
Yes. Oh man! Also, what I love about his character is they all went through their backstory of how they became a freak, And him is just he pops out of a truck and he goes over Randy Quaid, and Randy Quaid just goes, "I think you'd be better without a dick." Okay. He just becomes a bearded woman just based on that one comment.
It really, you know, just lots and lots of golden moments. Definitely cool. So we're winding down to the end of our allotted time. So you're working on Scare Package at the moment, and We Summoned a Demon is on its festival run. Is there anything else you're working on at the moment? I mean, it's enough.
Yeah, editing One Time in the Woods for Scare Package, and then once that's complete, I'm going to go full force into my first feature film, which is a werewolf horror comedy that all takes place in a hospital, kind of like Die Hard, but with werewolves instead of terrorists.
That sounds really cool. What sort of stage are you at? Pre-production stage?
Writing stage.
Right.
I'm about 5 pages in, and I've been about 5 pages in since last year. But I've been talking about it and thinking about it for probably 9 or 10 years. I bought the title domain, thetitle.com, about 10 years ago, and I keep renewing it every year, just waiting to make this movie.
That's actually a really good idea. Funny, yes, because I'm working on a werewolf script at the moment, and I just suddenly realized, that the title, on which it's the story on which it's based is so not going to be available. So I need to come up with something else. So I need to come up with a new title.
.com.
Yeah, no, it just was. It made perfect sense as a title for a short story. But I know if I Googled it immediately, it would come up with lots of other things. So I'll have to. I was out at a party yesterday talking about the naming of books with a gentleman called Kim Newman, who's a writer and a very well-respected film critic over here. And he was just listing all the really daft names for books, which, you know, there's already a very well, you know, you would never write a short story called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, for example. The naming of names is a fine art for all art, in fact, come to think of it. Cool. Chris, this has been great fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Good. All right. Well, just before I say goodbye, I just let everybody know that next week I'm going to be chatting with Stuart Spark and Paul Butler, the director and writer of the Book of Monsters. There's no definite article. Book of Monsters, which we will premiere at this year's London Fright Fest, the feature film, 11 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday, in which I have a small part. And I love this movie. I can't wait to see it. So I'm going to be talking to them about Book of Monsters and their hidden horrors as well. So hopefully I shall see some of you again then. In the meantime, Chris, thank you very much, and cheerio.
Thank you.
Cheers, Chris. And this has been Chattering with Nicholas Vince, and I've been talking with Chris McInroy about his most current film, We Summoned a Demon, which is out on the festival run at the moment. So if you have a chance to go and see it and check out his other films, Bad Guy Number 2 and Death Metal, do so, and also his hidden horrors. So freaked. Still keep on giggling about it, and The Gate. I really urge you to check out those movies, and I'll hopefully see some of you next week. Take care.